Titanic of the skies. This nickname was often given to large aviation disasters that shocked the public because of their scale and loss of life. In the early years of commercial aviation, crashes involving major passenger aircraft deeply affected public confidence in flying. These disasters often led to major improvements in aircraft design, weather forecasting, and international safety rules. Over time, aviation became far safer, partly because investigators carefully studied every major accident. Hindenburg disaster. Although technically an airship rather than an airplane, the Hindenburg disaster became one of the most famous aviation tragedies in history. In 1937, the massive German passenger airship caught fire while attempting to land in New Jersey. The event was captured on film and heard live on radio broadcasts, making it one of the first disasters experienced by a global audience in real time. It marked the decline of passenger airship travel and accelerated the shift toward airplanes. Tenerife airport disaster. This disaster occurred in 1977 on the Canary Islands when two fully loaded Boeing 747 aircraft collided on the runway during heavy fog. Communication confusion, limited visibility, and pressure on the crews all contributed to the accident. It remains the deadliest disaster in aviation history in terms of passenger deaths. Afterward, major changes were introduced in cockpit communication procedures and pilot training around the world. American Airlines Flight 191. In 1979, this flight crashed shortly after takeoff from Chicago when one of its engines detached from the wing. The aircraft lost critical control systems and rolled sharply before crashing. The disaster raised serious concerns about maintenance procedures and aircraft inspections. It became one of the deadliest aviation accidents in United States history and led to stricter oversight of airline maintenance practices. Japan Airlines Flight 123. This disaster happened in 1985 when a Boeing 747 suffered a catastrophic structural failure after an earlier repair had been done incorrectly years before. The aircraft lost hydraulic control and remained airborne for a terrifying period before crashing into mountains near Tokyo. It became the deadliest single aircraft accident ever recorded. The tragedy highlighted how even a small maintenance mistake can have consequences many years later. Air India Flight 182. In 1985, this international flight exploded over the Atlantic Ocean due to a hidden bomb placed on board. The attack killed everyone on the aircraft and became one of the deadliest acts of aviation terrorism before the 21st century. It exposed weaknesses in airport security and baggage screening procedures. Many countries later strengthened international cooperation on airline security because of incidents like this. Pan Am Flight 103. This aircraft exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland in 1988 after a bomb hidden in luggage detonated mid-flight. Debris fell across the town below, causing additional deaths on the ground. The disaster became internationally significant because of the long investigation that followed and the political tensions surrounding the case. It also pushed airports to improve baggage matching and passenger screening systems. United Airlines Flight 232. In 1989, this aircraft suffered a complete hydraulic failure after an engine explosion damaged all major control systems. The crew managed to partially steer the aircraft using engine thrust alone, something previously thought nearly impossible. Although the plane crashed during landing attempts, many passengers survived because of the pilot's extraordinary efforts. The accident became widely studied for its lessons in teamwork and emergency response. Swiss Air Flight 111. This flight crashed into the Atlantic Ocean near Nova Scotia in 1998 after an onboard fire spread rapidly through the aircraft. Smoke entered the cockpit and critical systems began failing within minutes. Investigators later focused heavily on flammable materials used inside aircraft cabins. The disaster changed fire safety standards and wiring regulations across the aviation industry. Concorde crash. In 2000, the famous supersonic Concorde crashed shortly after takeoff from Paris. A small strip of metal left on the runway by another aircraft punctured a tire, sending debris into the fuel tank and causing a fire. The accident was especially shocking because Concorde had long been seen as one of the most advanced passenger aircraft ever built. The crash eventually contributed to the retirement of supersonic passenger travel. September 11th. Hijackings. In 2001, 4 commercial airplanes in the United States were hijacked by terrorists and used in coordinated attacks. The event changed aviation security forever. Cockpit doors became reinforced, airport screening expanded dramatically, and air travel procedures around the world were rewritten. Beyond aviation, the attacks had massive political and social consequences that affected global history for decades afterward. Air France Flight 447. This flight disappeared over the Atlantic Ocean in 2009 during a storm while traveling from Brazil to France. Investigators later discovered that frozen sensors and confusion inside the cockpit caused the aircraft to enter a stall from which it never recovered. The crash highlighted the importance of pilot training during automated system failures. It also demonstrated how difficult ocean investigations can be when aircraft vanish far from land. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. In 2014, this aircraft disappeared during a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing and was never fully recovered. Despite large international search efforts, the exact cause remains uncertain. Small pieces of debris were later found along distant coastlines, but the main wreckage was never conclusively located. The mystery surrounding the flight turned it into one of the most discussed aviation cases in modern history. Germanwings Flight 9525. This aircraft crashed into the French Alps in 2015 after the co-pilot deliberately locked the captain out of the cockpit. Investigators later found evidence of severe mental health struggles. The tragedy led airlines worldwide to review psychological screening procedures and cockpit occupancy rules. It also raised difficult questions about balancing privacy with passenger safety. Lion Air Flight 610. This flight crashed into the sea in 2018 after a new automated flight control system repeatedly forced the aircraft downward. Pilots struggled to regain control as conflicting sensor data triggered dangerous responses. The disaster drew attention to how modern aircraft increasingly rely on software and automation. It eventually led to worldwide grounding and redesign efforts involving the aircraft model. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. This crash occurred only months after the Lion Air disaster and involved the same aircraft type. Similar automated system problems were identified during the investigation. The two accidents together forced aviation authorities and manufacturers to reevaluate certification processes, pilot training requirements, and software testing standards in modern aviation.